Hey y'all, welcome to Carrie's Creations. I'm Carrie, and today I'm going to be preparing 2 canvases for an acrylic pouring painting. This one I will be doing an initial preparation, and this one I will be doing a final preparation. This one goes to a project I'm working on, so I'm preparing this one a little different. But these canvases come out of a package loose with indentations and buckled corners, and we need to get rid of that. We want to have a flat, firm surface with no issues, no buckling, no wrinkling, no indentations in the corners. Now, when I first learned how to do this, I was taught by using a spray bottle of water, spraying the front and the back, and letting it sit and dry. And it worked. Except for one thing, I kept having a problem with the corners. The corners kept having little wrinkles in them and indentations, which in turn kind of ruins the look of the painting when it's done and dry. I want to have a flat surface all the way around with no buckling. Now I want to try to show you, here is where most of the indentation is. I'm not quite sure if you can see it on camera. Let me turn off some lights here. You can see it better here. Let's see. There you go. You can see this indentation here, and possibly you can see it here. This one's not so bad, but we want to have a flat, firm surface as a result that sounds like a drum when you tap on it. Right now it just sounds like a loose canvas. So let me turn the lights back on here. Now, as I was saying, the spray bottle does work. The problem I found is, because of the framing, the spray bottle doesn't get underneath into the corners. So that's what would make my corners kind of still look the same in the end. So what I've been doing, and it's been working out great, is just running it under the faucet, because that way all the water gets in the corners. The trick to this is not to use too much water under the faucet. If you use too much water, you're going to warp the frame, and you don't want to warp the frame. You also, when running it under the faucet, when you're done, you're going to let it drip dry, or at least, have some water drip off of it, and you're going to have a little pooling in the corners. You have to get rid of that. So in order to get rid of that, you just keep turning it and letting it drip and turning it and every side, and it doesn't take that long. And then you just set it and let it dry. And if you're wanting to paint the same day as you prepared your canvas, I would say prepare your canvas first before you prepare your paint. By the time you're done preparing your paint, 9 times out of 10, if it took at least an hour, you're gonna be ready to go. So I'm gonna run this one under some water just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Faucet may be kind of loud, water in the sink, so just bear with me here. I'll try to not make it so loud. I'm gonna do the underside first. For the same reasons that I told you, I am wetting the entire canvas, all of it. All the canvas that's stapled underneath. And then I'll turn it over and do the top. And when I'm done, I'm just going to let it drip. Now I can see some pooling down here. So I'm going to just turn it in another direction. That way the water spreads out. And now I don't even see any more pooling. I'm going to put it on my beautiful canvas stands here. Yeah, we're not fancy here at Carrie's Creations. I use these cups for everything. I use them for canvas stands. I use them for mixing paint. You know, they're inexpensive and you can wash them and reuse them. So, canvas is ready to go. Make sure that whatever you're using for stands does not puncture into the canvas, or that's how it's going to dry. And that's it. Let me dry my hands. And we'll move on to this one. Now, I'm at the end of a project. So I'm putting, after today, it's going to be 2 coats of paint on this canvas before I actually do my painting on it. And there's 2 reasons for that. The first reason is that canvas has a texturing on it that when there's not enough paint, when it dries, you can see the texturing through the paint. Now, in order to match the other ones that I've completed, which don't show the texturing through after it's dry, I'm adding more paint before I do the actual painting, in hopes of not seeing much texturing come through when I'm done, completely done with that painting. So I've mixed up some paint here. I used some colors that I don't use that often, and it just kind of been sitting on the shelf for this. With acrylic painting, you can put paint on top of paint on top of paint, and it won't show through. My suggestion is that if you're going to do that, let it dry completely first before you put another coat on there, or you do risk some of, especially the dark colors, coming through. Alright, I use these little sticks for mixing and stirring and whatnot. They've proven to be pretty handy. Okay, so I have my paint mixed up, and I'm just going to pour it on here. It's not the most attractive color, but it's going to work for what I need it for. Set that to the side. Now I do have cups underneath here. They kind of stuck themselves to the canvas. And all I'm going to do to cover is just tilt. Just keep tilting in different directions. Just for coverage, you don't need to do anything fancy with the paint. I just want to get it spread out as even as possible. Let it cover the corners. And last corner, I'm just going to let it drip. And as long as whatever you're using as a protectant on your counter or your table, whatever you're using, as long as it's clean, you can scrape that up, put it back in your cup, and use it if you want to, use it again for coverage. This paint is still good. Okay. Now I'll set it up on my little cups here. And I want to make sure, again, that the cups are not pushing up on the canvas underneath and are sitting on the wood. And I'm going to just let it sit for a minute or two and let it drip down the sides. And I'm also going to check the sides for full coverage along with the corners. Anything that's not covered, put some on your finger, dab it on, cover it up. Okay, we'll let that sit for a second or two. So while we're letting the paint drip over the sides and drip down any excess paint, we're going to torch it. We're going to get rid of as many bubbles as possible. Here's my little torch. And with the flame on, you do not want to get too close to the paint. You will burn the surface of the paint, which will in turn ruin your painting. Look at, they're all popping. Now you want to do this while your paint is really, really wet. That way the bubbles that do pop, the paint will still merge together to create a flat surface. All right, one more time. And I'm going to hit the sides a little bit. All right, that's probably good. Now don't ever set your torch on anything that can melt or burn after you use it. It is very hot, so I won't be setting it on the plastic. I have a piece of foil here. I'm gonna put it on the foil on my counter. Okay, I've put my gloves back on and I rinsed them off. And I've grabbed my spatula. We're going to scrape the underside of the canvas. We're going to get rid of all the little drippings underneath. Now you do not have to use a spatula. If you don't have one, you can use a butter knife, anything that has a straight edge, that you can find around your house. So I'm going to put my spatula underneath the painting. I'm going to make it as flush as possible so I'm not scraping any of the paint off of the sides of the canvas, and I'm just going to scrape across. Anything that comes off, I just wipe it off on my plastic here. Do all four sides. And then you want to get the corners. So what I do is I gently and slowly pick up the canvas, not too high though, you don't want the paint to shift. Wipe off the top of my cup and then use my hands to scrape the corners. And I'm going to do that on all four sides. This will help the underneath dry a little faster. And you won't have any dry dripping from the paint. Okay. Now I'm going to continue to use my hands to scrape off some of the paint. Most of it came off with the spatula. But I don't want all kinds of clumpiness on the other side of, on the bottom side of the canvas from the paint. So as much as I can get off is better. So I think this one is good to go, and I'm gonna let this sit for 24 hours before I use it for the last portion of my project. Now, if you guys have any suggestions on colors I can do, please put them in the comments. I have done quite a few paintings, but there's a bunch of color combinations I have not tried, and I'd love to do so. Thanks for stopping by, you guys. Thanks for taking the time to watch. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll be back soon doing another painting. Thank you. Bye-bye.